Views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
My wife and I have been able to raise 3 fantastic young men, and we've raised our nephew. And that's what I hope the voters can understand.
Tonight on Politics Now, in an emotional interview, Attorney General candidate Aaron Ford tells us about run-ins with the law during college and his recent IRS tax liens.
This company is about changing the paradigm in which our U.S. government can finally take this issue seriously.
The Pentagon spent tens of millions of dollars studying UFOs, so what did we get for the money? The I-Team's George Knapp reveals what came out of those studies.
This is what we're trying to avoid, and that's a train wreck.
And what to do when there's no water. The state engineer tries to figure out how to handle water rights in Coyote Springs.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
It has been a long week and a half for Democratic Attorney General candidate Aaron Ford. He's now talking about run-ins with the law in his college years, just days after news that he had $185,000 in tax liens, which he has since paid off. Thanks for joining us. I'm Patrick Walker.
And I'm Steve Sebelius. Ford told me he wanted to talk about his college mistakes before it came out on the campaign trail. This happened in a period of a few years starting in 1991. Here's part of that emotional interview with me about it.
And a lot of people heard about me using a program called Project Upward Bound to transition from tough times to Texas A&M University. That transition wasn't just from tough times to A&M, it was also from being a boy to becoming a young adult. And I made some bad decisions as a young adult while at Texas A&M, and I want to just come and share some of those with you because you're right, in the political arena, some of the things you've done in the past come out and people want to talk about it and they want to paint you as though you are something that you are not. And so I want to come on today and talk about some of those things. And the first thing that I'll mention is I recall being a freshman at Texas A&M, and I remember literally walking from one side of campus to my dorm room to the other side of campus, and I had been drinking on the one side of campus, and so I was walking back, and you know, when the campus police saw me walking, they arrested me for public intoxication.
In '94, you had a car problem. You had a problem with a car tire.
Yeah.
And you got the tire repaired at a repair shop. This is also in Texas, correct?
No, well, yeah, in Texas, absolutely. Yeah. It was down in the College Station area.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Like I said, I used to drive home every weekend, not every weekend, but several weekends. Especially after having had my son, I would try to go home and be with family and things of that sort. And on this one particular occasion, I recall having a leak in my tire, and I couldn't afford a new tire. I thought I was going to be able to get the leak fixed. But the tire shop said, no, the leak can't be fixed, so you need a brand new tire. And he said, I know you can't pay for a brand new tire, but I will put one on your car, and when you come back this weekend, you can pay me. And unfortunately, I didn't pay him soon enough, and he ended up filing a charge against me, and you know, it was a charge for theft.
Yeah.
But that charge was dismissed. Again, I want to be clear about that. These are, you know, bad decisions that kids make, that I made, and that charge was dismissed because I ended up paying for the tire.
Would you say that you're a responsible person?
I am a responsible person, but I am not a person who is any different from other Nevadans who were hit financially by the recession. You know, I find it remarkable that some are looking to revel in the financial misfortune of the Ford family, while at the same time touting compassion. The truth of the matter is, we were hit just like any other family was, and we had to make tough choices. When I tell you that I know about the increasing costs of higher education, I had a kid going to college during that time period. When I tell you that I know about insurance and hospital bills, I had a son who was hospitalized during that time period. So we had to make choices, and those choices were to take care of the family in those circumstances, and we always, make no mistake about it, we always paid our taxes. We just underpaid our taxes.
Yeah.
We were on a payment plan, and we have paid them off. That's the bottom line. We've even paid them off, and they've been paid off for 2 years now. You've been in session. Every time I start crying, I have a hard time starting to talk again. But over the last 25 years, my wife and I have been able to raise 3 fantastic young men, and we've raised our nephew. And that's what I hope the voters can understand.
Senator Ford also talked about a traffic warrant for a speeding ticket he didn't pay. He was arrested for that in 1992, and a trespassing incident in 1994 that involved the mother of his first son. He was not arrested in that incident. We talked for a total of about 20 minutes. That whole interview is on LasVegasNow.com.
Well, the I-Team's George Knapp has been reporting on a Defense Department program into UFO sightings. The main contractor for that study was a Las Vegas company.
Thousands of researchers have filed Freedom of Information Act requests for key documents, but those requests were denied. But of course, George Knapp hasn't.
The Pentagon's release last December of this 2004 encounter between pilots from the USS Nimitz and a mystery machine dubbed the Tic Tac UFO generated huge headlines and demands for more releases. 2 more followed, the gimbal video from 2015 and another nicknamed Go Fast. As many as 24 more videos are still in the Pentagon vaults, according to the man who ran the military's secret UFO study for years.
ATIP did find a lot of stuff. This wasn't just a one-off looking at the Nimitz incident. There were many, many incidents we looked at, and we looked at them on a continuing basis.
During his time in charge of the ATIP program, Lou Elizondo set into motion the release of these and other videos. He doesn't know if the spigot has been turned off now that he's no longer there. Since October, he's been working with To the Stars Academy to help change the perception of the UFO issue, particularly in Washington. And without revealing too much, Elizondo hints that progress is being made.
This company's about changing the paradigm in which our U.S. government can finally take this issue seriously without worrying about their political survival, right? Allowing Congress to have a conversation, either an open or a closed session, saying, all right, guys, gals, what do we do about this?
What we can talk about now is, should this scientific study continue that has already been started? A huge, volumes and volumes of stuff. We now have a basis for doing it.
Former Senator Harry Reid instigated the Pentagon study back in 2007, but kept it secret. Since his role was revealed last year, he's had many calls from others in Congress and believes there have likely been classified briefings involving military eyewitnesses. Reid fought hard to keep ATIP going, as revealed in this 2009 letter obtained by the I-Team. He also wants the study to be made public. The Pentagon has yet to release any files, but some information is dribbling out.
You've got these advanced aerospace vehicles flying around that we don't know where they come from, who's driving them, what the intent is, possibly off-world even.
In June, physicist Hal Puthoff made the first public presentation about the UFO study. Puthoff was the chief scientist for BASS, the Las Vegas company which won a Pentagon contract to study UFOs and related mysteries. In his presentation, Puthoff listed the subjects explored in dozens of scientific studies initiated by BASS. Star Trek-worthy topics, warp drive, invisibility, metamaterials. But the titles and authors have not been released until now. Here's the list, made public for the first time. Subjects include wormholes, anti-gravity, how to track hypersonic vehicles, and many others. Puthoff says his group has studied unknown materials recovered from crash sites. Make of that what you will. Elizondo says TTSA is actively looking for unusual materials so they can be analyzed.
You don't know at the time. You know, you pick up a piece of, or have delivered to you a piece of metallic, slag that, frankly, could be to a vehicle that we've never seen before, or it could be part of an alternator to a 1984 Cadillac. You just don't know. So we have to be very careful.
Elizondo doesn't know if more UFO videos will ever be released, but says there's big news coming about the ones already made public. The gimbal video, for instance. He points out that the pilots didn't encounter just one UFO.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we posted key documents on LasVegasNow.com, including that 2009 letter written by Senator Harry Reid, as well as the list of the science papers written for the Pentagon during the ATIP program. A few items, of course, had to be redacted at the request of our sources. Well, what to do when there's just no water?
If they simply say that there's not enough water for them and they should go home, that'd be great.
The serious decisions the state engineer has to make in Coyote Springs. Coming up on Politics Now.
Plus, Yucca Mountain is stalled for now. Senator Dean Heller tells us for how long. That's next.
The Acura MDX. Don't miss this event going on now.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Well, a push to renew activity for a nuclear waste dump slated for Yucca Mountain appears to be on hold for now.
The U.S. Senate cut $30 million in funding for the licensing process from a defense bill during a conference committee. Nevada Senator Dean Heller told me this puts the issue off for a few years.
Seems like Yucca Mountain funding is kind of like playing whack-a-mole. Any idea maybe where this might pop up again and where you're trying to put your defenses?
Yeah, well, the good news is it's not here through 19, and we'll have the argument again in 2020. But we have it postponed for another couple of years, and you know, who knows? Maybe it becomes a presidential issue. I don't know the answer to that, but that's when it becomes ripe again. And you know, I know that that these presidential candidates are every time they come into the state of Nevada, they have to talk about this particular issue.
Well, this comes just a week after House Republicans toured the site in their push to move it forward. The proposed dump is about 75 miles northwest of Las Vegas. The plan would involve storing spent nuclear fuel from commercial power plants from 39 states. Nevada's entire congressional delegation opposes restarting the project.
Well, speaking of Dean Heller, he also picked up an endorsement from the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition in his bid for re-election. The group endorsed Catherine Cortez Masto last year, and this year has backed Democrats including Steve Sisolak for governor, Kate Marshall for lieutenant governor, and Nelson Araujo for Secretary of State. The coalition includes the Las Vegas Police Protective Association, the Washoe County Sheriff's Deputies Association, the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers, and the Southern Nevada Conference of Police and Sheriffs. Well, the water picture in and around the Moapa Valley is bleak, and the state engineer is looking for solutions to avoid having to cut people off from their own water rights.
So what does this mean for long-stalled major housing development? I went on the road to Coyote Springs near the Clark and Lincoln County lines to find out.
This is what we're trying to avoid, and that's a train wreck.
A very blunt presentation from State Engineer Jason King to more than 100 people, many of whom have water rights in the valleys around US 93 and I-15 northeast of Las Vegas.
We had an aquifer test of just a fraction of how much water rights can be developed out there, and what we saw were impacts
to springs and potential stream flow.
Some 40,000 acre-feet of water per year is allocated out of 5 interconnected basins. And as of 2001, people have applied for the rights to some 300,000 more acre-feet. That year, state officials pumped the brakes, and nearly a decade and a half later, in 2014, they denied all claims for new water rights. Then, last year, King denied approval of the Coyote Springs subdivision map, triggering litigation.
We cannot justify approval of subdivision maps based on junior priority water rights without the identification of other water sources for development.
Translated, the state engineer doesn't believe there's enough water for the 42,000-acre development that was to have up to 150,000 homes, even though the Las Vegas Valley Water District spent $25 million to buy part of the water rights that go with the property to provide water to the development. The scope of the project out here at Coyote Springs is pretty massive, but there are people who are not very excited about it. Those people voicing their concerns to the state engineer.
We can understand why others would like to take water from it, but please don't let them do it.
Since Coyote started pumping, the spring's not flowing anymore, and it's gradually gone down.
If they simply say that there's not enough water for them and they should go home, that'd be great. Thanks.
The only testimony in support of Coyote Springs coming from the development itself.
Coyote Springs Investment objects to the imposition of any restrictions on the use of its water and asks that all decisions of the state engineer be transparent and motivated only by science.
Due to the pending litigation, both Coyote Springs Chief Operating Officer Amelia Cargill and the state engineer declined interviews related to the development.
Council, yeah. Well, that's Patrick taking one for the team out there in the hot Moapa Valley. This basin, though, this played a pretty big role in the Southern Nevada Water Authority's pipeline plan for the pipeline to eastern Nevada, didn't it?
Right. This was one of the basins. Now, the pipeline would essentially pump water, as it's been proposed, out of those basins in rural Nevada up the eastern spine of the state, down here into the Las Vegas Valley. The state engineer held a hearing on that as well. Toward the end of last year, over water rights in the remaining 4 basins, not counting the Coyote Springs Basin. The ruling on those rights is expected to come out any time now, so we're waiting to see what the engineer has to say.
Yeah.
Well, the possibility of a female majority legislature.
I think it's really exciting. I think it's very neat.
As long as they're conservative Republicans, I'm for it.
Our face-off panel takes on what could be another first for Nevada.
And a voter fraud investigation, why the Secretary of State is zeroing in on some double voters in the primary election.
Most Washington politicians just go wherever their party tells them to. Like Dean Heller, who promised to vote against the plan to repeal Obamacare because it would hurt Nevada. But when President Trump put the pressure on,
you weren't there, but you're gonna be there.
Dean Heller got back in line.
It's a complete 180.
He decided not to cross Trump.
I'm Jackie Rosen, and I approve this message because I'll work to fix Obamacare. And I won't walk the party line.
NV Energy is a monopoly, your only option for electricity now. And there's nothing you can do when they raise your rates. Yes, on question 3, the Energy Choice Initiative creates competition. Now NV Energy has to compete for your business. They raise rates, you go to another provider. That's why rates in Energy Choice states are 14% lower. Competition is good. Don't let anyone, especially a monopoly, tell you otherwise. It's that simple.
Imagine if you didn't have the tools to do your job successfully. Our school teachers face that each and every year. That's why we host the Great School Supply Drive benefiting the Clark County School District.
Drop off your supplies and donations between July 23rd and August 3rd at select Smith's locations and Silver State Schools Credit Union.
Visit LasVegasNow.com for complete details. Your help benefits our kids, our teachers, and our future.
The Great School Supply Drive, sponsored by Smith's and Silver State Schools Credit Union. Watching Politics Now.
Well, the national media has picked up on the idea that Nevada could end up with the country's first female majority legislature in this election. A lot of close races would have to fall just the right way for that to happen, but it is a possibility. So we had our face-off panel weigh in on the topic. Here's KXNT radio host Alan Stock and Battleborn Progress Executive Director Annette Maggs.
With some dominoes falling in place, it could be a majority this session. Annette, what do you think of that idea?
I think it's really exciting. I think it's very neat that we have so many women serving in both parties, because there are women in both parties that are running and winning and moving into higher elected office. And we've always done very well when it comes to women serving in offices here in Nevada. We've always been very high on that list. But I think it's important that we could be one of the first states that has a female majority in our state legislature. And we know when women run, they can win, and then they change the face of policy because they think about things a little differently than men do. And they bring up different issues like education, healthcare, women's issues. And so those things are near and dear to my heart as a woman and as somebody who cares about those issues deeply every day. And so I'm excited about the fact that we could have more women representing us, especially women of color representing us in our state legislature. And I think it's something that we can be proud of.
First of all, I never have voted for anyone based on plumbing, race, or religion. I don't go for any of that. I go upon the individual. Yes, I mean, the excitement would be if women were part of the controlled legislature up in Carson City. It's because most would be Democrats. You don't see the libs coming out and supporting Condi Rice or Nikki Haley or people like that. I mean, that's just is not happening. So it's not just women. It's like liberal women, Democrat women, let's get them in office. That's the point of this whole thing. And again, my vote goes to the individual. I don't worry about the sex, the race, the religion. None of that means anything to me at all. Where do you come down on the issues that are important to me? And I want to see lower taxes. I want to see people trying to foster an environment that's going to help create jobs and things like that. That to me is what is important.
There are plenty of examples of women in the legislature who are Republicans or nonpartisans and are Democrats who are doing good things and making good policy change. So for me, it is important to have female representation there regardless of the party, because they do make different decisions and they base their decisions on different life experiences than men do.
As long as they're conservative Republicans, I'm for it.
Sure.
And if they're liberal Democrats, I don't care what they look like, I'm not for it. Listen, I like Barbara Sagavsky. Secretary of State has done a fantastic job in calling for voter ID, and now we know with the latest information coming out, we know 43 people voted twice in the state. I don't know. That hasn't come out yet, but 6 people are under investigation for fraud. And by the way, I don't care whether it's Republican or Democrat. If you vote twice, you should be held liable for that. You should be for voting, and then the system that is broken, allowing that to happen, has got to be corrected, which is why I support voter ID, because these things should never, ever be happening. Ms. Barbara Sagavsky has been supporting a very solid election process.
You can also watch the panel weigh in on the Michael Cohen-Donald Trump tape released this week, why the Congressional District 4 race isn't getting a lot of attention, and Aaron Forward's IRS liens that we told you about earlier in the show. That's on LasVegasNow.com. Look for politics news under the News tab. Patrick?
All right, Steve, this is the race now where we go over some of the other big stories in the 2018 election. The Nevada Secretary of State's office is investigating 6 Clark County residents for intentionally voting twice during the primary election. Clark County Registrar of Voters Joe Gloria recommended the investigation after he found that 40 people voted twice, which sparked a do-over in the county administrator race. Well, the Morning Consult poll shows that Republican Senator Dean Heller is still underwater on his approval ratings. He has a 37% approval rating in Nevada. That's compared to a 40% disapproval rating. Now, though he's not running for anything, Governor Brian Sandoval remains as one of the most popular governors at 58% approval, 21% disapproval. Well, the yes on question 3, the Energy Choice Initiative, endorsed the yes on question 6 campaign, which would increase the state's renewable energy standard to 50% by the year 2030. In response, question 6 gave kind of a tepid thanks, saying they appreciate the support for renewable energy, but that campaign did not give an endorsement back to question 3. The Gwynn Center report on question 3 said there is no relation between energy choice and more renewable energy. So, Steve, though the energy market in initiatives may seem related, and this is something we talked about during that conference. This is kind of a strange case of bedfellows, right?
That's for sure. I mean, question 3 is backed by mega donor Sheldon Adelson, big Republican. Question 6 is backed by mega donor Tom Steyer. Sheldon Adelson supports Donald Trump. Steyer wants to impeach Trump.
Right, so we're looking at quite the opposition here coming together at least.
Absolutely.
All right, well, stay with us. Much more coming up.
The card instantly at One Nevada.
And this is What to Watch, where we tell you what we are keeping an eye on next week. On Wednesday, the CCSD Board of Trustees has a special meeting to consider bill draft requests for the next legislative session. The main focus will be how to get more money for the school district. And on August 4th, Channel 8 will have a back-to-school special from 6:30 to 7 p.m. We'll be taking a look at how CCSD is moving forward under the leadership of new Superintendent Dr. Jesus Jara.
And we also have a lot more on questions 3 and 6 on our website, so you want to check that out at LasVegasNow.com. Well, that's our show. You can email me at sSebelius@LasVegasNow.com.
P. Walker at LasVegasNow.com for me. We'll see you back here next Saturday.